really thank you for taking the time to do this today.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's
Mayor
just
Stewart,
really cool.
welcome to the SLO Lounge.
Thank you.
This is awesome.
Thank you. I love the look of the SLO Lounge. Just a great environment. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on and already getting to hear your love for this place and you're intrigued by all of the things.
Totally. And I have not seen that monopoly since forever. I mean, so many of those places were around when I first started coming to SLO, and that's kind of wild to look at.
Yeah, I actually found that on like Facebook Marketplace from a guy who had gone to Cal Poly.
No way.
Him and his wife, because it was like a giveaway or something, right? And he sold it to me for $5. I'm like, wouldn't you want to keep that?
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm just like looking at all the places on there. I'm like, wow, that's so trippy.
But personally, I did not go to college here.
Okay.
You did. Was that your first kind of
I came here in 90.
Life?
Yeah, 1990. I came here to check out the school during what was known as Poly Royal at the time. I'm sure you've heard that open house used to be Poly Royal. And that year was the infamous riot year, 1990. And we didn't have social media at that time, so it wasn't all over the world, short of, some news. So it didn't freak out my parents too much, thank goodness. And my friend's older sister was here. So that's how we stayed there, and it was quite an experience. But before all that riot stuff, the actual campus was so cool because all these activities were happening. Like, I wasn't a robotics major, but it was really cool to see these giant robots. I mean, this is 1990, giant robots and moving around, and the students and the teachers were working simultaneously, all the ag stuff. It was really cool. And I just fell in love with San Luis Obispo and Cal Poly. And so I said, yep, I'm coming here. And I was a food science major. Little did I know that was a terrible plan for me. I wanted to be a chef, which I did become a chef later, and open up my own restaurant, which I ended up opening up my own bakery, so close to a restaurant. But food science was very much like the manufacturing side of it. And that I'm like, I didn't want to make sun chips and I didn't want to make soda, et cetera, et cetera. I'm thankful for people who do, but I did not want to do that. So I'd already fallen in love with SLO and with Cal Poly and thought, what am I going to do? So I ended up changing majors last minute, being able to stay here, just continued to get more and more involved, and absolutely loved it. So let's see, we graduated in 95 and then came back in 97, I think. 97 or 98. I think 98. So 98, because then we had our son, our oldest son, in 99, and it's just been a great place to raise kids. And it's a tough place to live financially. We've always worked, my husband and I, 2 or 3 jobs at a time, but not having huge traffic, having a beautiful area to just go walk around in, even when you don't have the money, it's kind of amazing.
Yeah. So after leaving Cal Poly then, and I mean, me having not even gone to school here, it was a place that drew me in. And so did you live elsewhere? Did you go and then feel called to come back as well?
Yes, we went away and came back a couple times. So the first time I went away, graduated, was going to work at Jamba Juice, which was Juice Club at the time. And that was in San Francisco. So I went back up to Santa Rosa, where I was from, waited for my store to get ready. My store was delayed. So then I went down to Santa Monica, helped in Santa Monica. What else did I go? Oh, yeah, we were in El Segundo and Sunset for a little bit. And then we went back up to San Francisco when my store was ready to open. So we were in the inner Sunset for a couple years, really loved it there. We just didn't really want to raise kids there. So we were looking for somewhere else that made more sense for us for kids. And this made perfect sense for us. So then after our oldest turned 1, we went down to El Segundo. And then we went back up to Sunnyvale, the Silicon Valley / Sonoma County area. So then we'd done this a couple times and we said, you know what, every time we come back to SLO County, so why don't we just figure it out in SLO County?
Yeah. It sounds obvious that you just loved it so much.
Absolutely.
And it's cool to actually sit where we are sitting now.
Yes.
Where you're doing what you're doing now as mayor and look back and go, you knew from the beginning that you liked it a lot and
Absolutely.
made it a thing.
And I didn't
It's
think so when
crazy.
I was a student. I was like, oh no, I'm going to go away. I'm going to make money. I'm going to live in a metropolitan area. That was my plan.
Yeah.
And then the more that I realized, no, I like this calmer pace of life.
Hmm.
It just changed everything as far as how I looked at what I valued. And I didn't want to spend, 12 hours between work and the car, just kind of stuck there in an office. I really wanted to have that balance of things. And you can do that here.
Hmm. Yeah.
So.
In the meantime, so that was the late 90s.
Mhm.
Fast forward to joining the city council.
Yeah, 2018.
I mean, in the meantime, are you someone who's already very involved, wanting to end her life of politics, or public service was really what you're calling?
Public service, yes. Politics, no. I never, ever wanted to be a politician. I didn't ever see myself in this realm. The last time I did anything elected at that point was 94, 95. I was the ASI president, the student body president at Cal Poly. And then, we just got really involved with our kids, and I've been either in human resources or management or hospitality. Those are my three realms. And I got really involved in all their different nonprofit stuff, the fundraising for sports and whatever other activities they were involved in, mainly because we didn't have money. So instead of giving my treasure, I gave my time and made sure to get really involved and help our kids be able to have that access. But then little by little, I really loved being involved. So then became, the president of the boosters, or I don't think I was president, I think I was vice president, but whatever, something in leadership and active. I really got to understand what was working and not working in whatever organization I was part of, whether it was my kids' school, my kids' soccer group, my employees at my work for human resources. It was like, what's not creating that best experience, and how can I help make it a little bit better? So I've kind of taken that and brought it forward into politics. At that time, I want to say that went away, but at that time in 2018, I was seeing from 16 to 17 really negative behavior from leadership in national, state, and some local political experiences here. And I just thought, that's not what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be professional. We're supposed to be relatively objective and be able to listen to everyone so that we can come up with the best decisions possible. Sometimes we do it right, sometimes not always. We learn from our mistakes too. But my human resources background, my experience of being in all these different nonprofits and organizations, I have a master's in public administration. I really felt like I could come in and bring just some, let's calm down and let's just talk about actual issues and figure out what we need to do to change it and make it better. So that's when I started saying, okay, I think I'll consider this idea, and decided to get the education through a group called Emerge California on how to run for office, and went from there.
That's amazing. What a journey. And I mean, a lot of people have opinions, right, about the best way that a society can run, the best ideas, or, at least personally, what they'd like to see happening, like you said, at all those multi-levels. But not a lot of people actually say, I'm going to go be part of that change. A lot of people say, I lead by and say, I hope this happens.
Right.
But even before we get into then you going in that direction, what do you think it was about, I don't know, was it something in your upbringing or experiences in your life that made you want to be that person that enacts change and not just hopes it happens?
Well, that's a great question. My mom always put a lot of, shared her thoughts about how we have to make the community better ourselves, whether it was helping out with the toy drive or whatever it was. Then my stepdad came along later on in our life, and he too was the same way. So I'm sure it was, partially just my parents. And then when I went to Cal Poly, I started getting really involved with just fun activities and organizing things, then started getting involved in the student government. And from the student government, I had some really great mentors, and they shared with me different I guess, business books, leadership books. And the Peter Drucker stewardship book really stuck out to me. And it was about just different types of leadership. There's so many, books now that we can all continue to read and say, oh, this one's good. This one's good. I do feel like it's a little bit of just continuing to learn a little something new than repackaging old information. And just understanding that, like, I was kind of born to serve. That's one of the things that I like to do, whether it's in hospitality or whether it's in community. It's like, how can I make your experience better? And so they were just kind of sharing, hey, this seems to fit your leadership style. Check this book out. And from that book, I was like, yeah, I love this book. This is like what I'm all about. And as I've continued to grow and had more and more mentorship and had people in my life that said, hey, here's another way to do something that you've described you like, and just continued doing that, whether it was making dinner for the Maxine Lewis shelter and now 40 Prado, or whether it was organizing a clothing drive. It's just like, what can I do? Because I see there's need out there, and the many hands makes light work aspect. I really wish we were all doing it, because really everyone, if they're just doing a little something, can really make this world a lot better. And I know that sounds super cheesy, but it's really the real truth. We can all, if we all came together and didn't fight about fiefdoms and territory and fears, we could just really make this world a great place. But all those things do affect us. I mean, certain things are scary or concerning, or we have experiences that make things not great. And so just how do we come together?
It's a complex topic.
It is,
to say the least.
It is.
But you're leading by example by saying, I'm going to put myself out there.
Thank you.
And try to make people come together to understand that we can all shape the world by adding in each of our parts, doing our part little by little.
Yeah.
World doesn't change in a day.
It
all
does
of the
not.
things.
How we've gotten here has taken a long time. So
exactly.
I'm sure it's going to take a while to unravel it as well.
Exactly. But it's awesome that you get to marry your passion of helping the community, doing your part, and then turning it into this like awesome, amazing like story to where we're sitting today.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, now that you're, getting more involved, saying, okay, this is something that's intriguing to me. Emerge California is what you said.
Yeah.
So this kind of idea that you're like, okay, political office is not out of the question now. And then that journey from there to city council, like what was that timeline like?
Well, I think it was probably into 16 to beginning of 17. My coworker and I, we shared an office, and we'd walk up from the bottom of Cal Poly to the top of Cal Poly once a week to do our meetings. And I would share my frustrations about what was going on. And she says, have you heard of Emerge California? And I said, no. So she says, well, this program, like many others, but this one specifically trains women with democratic values to run for office. I really think you should look into it. It fits you really well. I'm like, that's not what I'm going to be doing, but I'll look into it. So looking into it was very much like Leadership SLO. It just really broke it down into understanding all the different aspects of running for office. What does it take to be in office? And I just really enjoyed that educational side. So I said, okay, I'm just going to learn about it. I'm not going to even do it. And you had to choose an office to do like the homework. And so I chose supervisor for the county. I went and did I shadowed a day with one of the supervisors, and really just I walked for Jimmy Paulding his first run, just so I could have understanding what this means. And all of that, I really wasn't planning to run even in 2018 when I first started this journey. But the first day, our first day was actually December 2017. We had to say we're going to run for office and what office we'd run for. And I thought, well, this is a weird moment because I'm not really running for office, but I'll just, I'll be in it altogether when I'm here. So by the end of 2018, when I graduated from the program, I really felt like I had the tools. And then I was really excited to actually use these tools. And I'd heard a little rumor that a friend of mine, Dan Revoir, was going to maybe not run for office again. So when I asked him, I said, hey, can we go to coffee? I've heard a little rumor, and I don't like to hear just rumors and just go with them. I like to actually talk to the source. And he said, yeah, let's talk. And so he was like, yeah, I'm thinking maybe I might not run. I'm not really sure. And he told me some reasons why. And he asked me, what was I thinking? I said, well, I'm looking at 2020, but I just really wanted to hear what your thoughts were. And as I walked away, I thought, wait, I have all these tools. I can do this now. And so I went and talked to my husband and said, okay, so here's what I'm thinking. He was totally on board. Our youngest was still at home. He was totally on board. And at that point, I started talking to other people and saying, I'm getting serious about this. Can you help me? And when people were just totally willing to help, I just felt like the path was opening in front of me. I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing now. Yeah. And continued to study up on the topics that I felt like I didn't know enough about, or some that I knew, but how do I really explain the policy around it? And went through, campaign was intense. We're in campaign season again, but now this is my third time. It's not as intense because I know a little bit about what to do. So it's kind of nice. It's not exactly rinse and repeat, because before I was appointed as mayor and then I ran for mayor and now I'm running for mayor again. And depending when you're running, there's different people that are running against you, and it can be a different kind of campaign depending on how that goes. So it's been a really interesting journey.
Yeah, and with the world evolving the way that it does all the time,
absolutely.
Public office is something that I'm sure it's definitely not rinse and repeat.
No,
could not be.
No, not at all. I mean, the entire
dynamic
process. I mean, every year is different. Every month is different. Even the budget process. I've been through this budget process as just a general constituent, community member. I later was a chair of a chamber subcommittee and went through the process like that. But going through it now as a council person and as a mayor, it was completely different, because you start to see, behind the curtain and what's missing. And, oh, that's why we can't make that budget decision. Or we can, but then here's the things we can't do. And really having those understanding discussions around trade-offs. It may seem so simple when it seemed simple to me when I was not on the council. I'm like, of course you need to fix this problem and do it quickly. And then it's like, okay, but there's also these other legal issues that you have to take care of. And there's other state regulation you have to take care of. And then there's new issues that come up. And it's an interesting, constant weighing of the most important priority, but at the same time, trying to maintain some of the balance of adobes, for example, historic adobes. If you don't take care of them, eventually they fall apart to the point that you can't take care of them at all. So if you continue to delay, because it's not the top priority, then you get to this point where you lose history. So trying to find that balance and everything is really interesting.
What a journey. And I think through my time in interviewing people outside of the SLO Lounge and my work in video and podcasting, often the theme is that people end up in a career. Not end up that obviously they pursued a passion or something, but it was always because it was something that they felt like they were doing something that fulfilled them throughout the process. It was not, I want to make $1 million. How do I get there? It's like you're doing what you love, you're doing what you feel called to do, and then good things happen from that.
Absolutely.
Would you say that that's something that also then, I mean, we kind of talked about it, but I mean, again, being elected, appointed, is it just a culmination of saying, I felt like this was just all things happening through doing what I felt passionate and called to do?
Absolutely. I think there were many things that just kind of happened. Even in the appointment when Mayor Harmon stepped down, there was this moment where I was thinking, oh, I have no time or money to be mayor. I can't do that. And but when she stepped down, all of a sudden it was like, well, there's 4 of us left that all have been really working hard on all these really important issues. And to have a brand new person out of nowhere come in and be the mayor when the 4 of us who had been working so hard on all these issues and then would have to get caught up and then they'd have to run in 6 months, I just thought that doesn't make sense. And so then coming to my boss and telling them my challenges at that time, I was working for the health center at Cal Poly. And when they said, well, you could go 3/4 time, there's a reduced time-based possibility. And you just have to figure out, can we handle that at our health center? And can you handle that in your workload? And how do we change that workload? And it was like each thing just kind of opened up. And it was exciting because I thought, wow, now I can actually continue that passion. And people always say, what's your vision for the country or vision for the city? And for me, my vision is helping the community continue their vision. The people who come to SLO, they love SLO because of what it is. They're not coming to SLO to change it like yourself. You're like, I love this. I want to come visit it when I can. And eventually I want to live there. And now you live here. Like, it's not like you wanted to come here and change everything, right?
Right.
Right.
It attracted me in. It brought me in.
So how do we do more of what you liked that was here?
That's a good point.
And that's what I'm trying to kind of back to that hospitality, HR, what's missing in that protection of open space, for example, or what's missing in you can't afford to live here or you can't afford to work here. What's the parts that are missing so that people can enjoy San Luis Obispo? So I think that's been just kind of that theme of trying to help people and learn the processes and the procedures behind things so I can help from the inside. I typically find that works better for me.
So you mentioned we're in the middle of campaign season.
Yes.
Thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome.
I'm sure it's a hectic time. And that can be challenging, I'm sure, for so many different reasons. But also, you've been here before. I'm sure when, the election's over and you're in your spot, the challenge doesn't cease.
No, it doesn't cease. And that's the interesting part now running in these last couple of elections where I'm in the job and campaigning, because the job doesn't end while I'm campaigning.
Right.
And I remember the first time I campaigned, I said, I'm going to do all these things. And I hear other people that are candidates say, I'm going to do all these things. And I love that. And I love the excitement and the enthusiasm. And there's this moment of now I know some of those things you can and can't do. So I don't want to make false promises. And as I listen to candidates who haven't been in the role before, that's where people are making promises that they can't keep necessarily. And that's really hard because I don't want to say, no, you can't. That doesn't work in like a debate or a conversation. So really just focusing on how do we make transportation better? How do we make more housing available and different types of housing available? How do we help reduce the amount of unhoused individuals without housing? How do we get access to those resources? I just keep looking at the things I would promise I would do in a campaign are the things that I'm actually working on. So instead, it's now, how do I talk about what we're working on and also learn about what's not going well with what we're doing? Yeah. And so I think, parking has become like a big P word, but really it's really seeing that there were decisions we made with staff and with council, seeing what worked, what didn't work, coming up with compromises, and then moving forward and accepting those new changes. And so I think that's the key to it all is continuing to be willing to, or being willing to be open and being willing to evolve.
Yeah. Going along the line of challenges, still kind of this theme, in an election, someone wins, someone doesn't win.
Right.
And then along the way too, the community is made up of people who have viewpoints of the person who wins and some opposing. And
Absolutely.
so I like that you already alluded to, your forthcoming term as mayor. I love that. That's awesome.
You have to be thinking positive.
You have to. I love that. But, considering, that there will be people who ultimately don't vote for you.
Absolutely.
And there were people who didn't last, not to be negative or anything.
No, of course.
But, what is your approach to, being involved in such a public way? I mean, I feel like I'm not cut out for it because, you're never going to have 100% of people saying yes to you and your ideas. So what is your approach? Because that has to be kind of not fun, I'm sure.
At times it is definitely weighs on me because there are times to make decisions that are not even decisions I'm 100% happy to make. But when I weigh what's best versus what's best, sometimes is like a solid, 90% best idea. Sometimes it's 51% best idea. Sometimes I don't agree and I don't vote for the idea. So it just depends. I always tell people, and I'm very serious about this, is I will go to any meeting with your group of friends, at your house, to the coffee shop, to a church or temple or a mosque or wherever, and talk about issues. And Teresa, our city clerk, is awesome. You probably emailed back and forth with her. I just will say, hey, can you help me figure out how to find some time in my calendar to meet with this person?
Mm.
And people have been upset with me about water rates, for example. And one of the most frustrating things is when for this gentleman, which I totally heard him and agree with, and yet at the same time can't fix, is he conserved so much water. He is like, taking every little drop of water practically possible and reusing it and using gray water system and all of that. Unfortunately, the 1 month, which is typically the month where we have rain, people don't irrigate as much, we can get your rates as low as possible by looking at that usage time, is the one time for him that all his family comes and visits, and it's the busiest time. And so his rates are higher than he feels they should be. And it was a really frustrating experience because I listened to him and it makes sense what he's saying. And I wished I could solve that problem. And at the same time, the majority of everyone that lives in the city, if we decided to evaluate rates at a different time, we'd all be paying more. Mm-hmm. So it's this struggle of sometimes not being able to solve everyone's problem is hard. But I really think that it's important that if there's ways we can make things better, let's talk about it and let's figure out ways to do it. There are some people who just choose to come and yell at us, and that's what they get to do. I'm sad because that's not really a good open dialogue of conversation. And the council meeting doesn't really feel like a great dialogue of conversation, because by the time it gets to our agenda, there's been all this conversation, meaning the community members have met as in different engagement groups or surveys or whatever it may be. Staff has met and tried to figure out how they do something or not. They're bringing this final suggestion of a report to us. And at that point, we're kind of saying, do we want A, B, or C? Sometimes with A, B, or C, enough of the community writes in or calls in or whatever and says, B could work if you would just change it just a little bit. And we hear that and bring it back to staff. Staff says, okay, let's see if we can change that little bit. And sometimes that change happens, which is really cool. And then sometimes it doesn't because it's too late or it's not as coordinated or whatever it might be. So really trying to encourage people to connect on their issue earlier has been, my main focus. We have like e-notifications. So are you interested in bikes? Are you interested in open space? What are you interested in? Get those emails at least so this is happening like way before the meeting. So we can actually make the changes that are possible.
Yeah. It's not a quick, easy system. Yeah,
No,
I get it.
Not.
I work in government as well. And not in this particular area, but getting things done is a slow process.
It is.
But what a wonderful sentiment. Like you said, you're never, there's so many people on this planet. We couldn't possibly all have the same opinions. I think it's good that we don't. And
absolutely.
What I think you said is the most amazing part is that it's about being able to have that open dialogue. Yes. I think that is the best way to understand your neighbor about, their own life experiences, your own. You get to come together and ultimately, hopefully, have at least an open dialogue. You can understand each other a little bit more.
I agree.
And I think you're facilitating that. And through even just saying, I will talk to anybody with these ideas and have an open discussion.
Absolutely.
That's
Thank
amazing.
You. Yeah. I think it's important. And I think, like you said, bureaucracy, there is a reason that's kind of like a negative word at times, because it just means everything moves so slow and there's so many steps. But at the same time, if it went really quickly and there weren't as many steps, that would mean not as many people from the community are involved or engaged. So it's this constant challenge of how do we move faster, quicker, better, and how do we engage the community, let them know what's happening, and get to be involved in the decision?
Yeah. So I was going to ask you about a particular instance of one of these dialogues. I like the example of this water issue, for example, but just as like a broad statement, I don't know if you have something that you tell to people who, again, ultimately will vote for another candidate, where you still are able to share that you still value them in our community and want to have that dialogue. But how do you just, tell people in your forthcoming term that you're going to be there for them as well?
Absolutely. I think even there's an old saying, agree to disagree. And I want to hear from someone, even when we don't agree. I want to hear the why behind it. I'm definitely a why person, because sometimes we can at least make things a little bit better towards their why, or I can at least explain why that why doesn't work for this one decision. So I think just again, having open dialogue, being willing to listen, and being willing to have a two-way conversation. Some people want to just share their opinion and then be done, which is fine. You get to do that, and that's venting, and that's allowed. But I also really encourage a back and forth conversation. I remember I walked with someone who lives over by Foothill, and we met near their house, and then just walked her entire neighborhood, and then out towards Santa Rosa. And she showed me the things that were a problem and explained why certain things are typically brought up by the group that she's part of. And I really appreciated that, because I said, oh, okay, great. This is something where let's just take a picture of it, put on Ask SLO, and get staff to take care of it. There were other parts of it that weren't as quick and easy, of course, and really trying to figure out how do we come up with some compromises. And at least just hearing from each other was really helpful. And sometimes then on the other topics, we can at least have some really open, genuine conversations that we can actually agree on, which is nice. We're not going to agree on them all, but I really just encourage that open dialogue.
Well, so that's amazing that you get to meet people, hearing their needs, hearing their concerns.
Thank you.
We've covered challenges, but I also hope that you get to hear about the things that people are excited about. They're pumped. They say thank you.
Yes.
Do you also have those walks around the block?
Yes, because if I didn't, I don't think I could keep doing it. From as simple as I was actually on vacation last week and a half. My sister got married, and then I had like a little bit of a mini high school reunion. And when I was gone, there was the Art in the Park event, and it was the first time it happened at Santa Rosa Park in SLO, and we received so much positive response. It was awesome. It was filled. It was great. I've been going off and on to the, what is it called? Monday meetups. So today or tonight, I think from 5 to 8, 5 to 7:30, it'll be at Duval Park. And it's really fun to watch people come out from their neighborhoods, visit the food trucks, hang out at the park, bring a camping chair, go on the playground equipment. It's just really great. And so each time we make a change, when we open something up, we put some new equipment, it's been really fun to like hear the responses. Even though some people haven't loved all the bike situation, I've also really received a lot of positives of, I can now take my kid to school. I'm in a wheelchair. I had to walk. I had to take my wheelchair and go into the middle of the road because there wasn't a safe place for me to be. Now there is. Thank you. I'm hearing those kind of responses as well. So I really appreciate that. There's a commissioner on the Parks and Rec commissioner and a commission, and he does a really great job of just sharing, like walking around the community and seeing the awesome things that we have. And when you just stop and enjoy that for a hot minute, it's just kind of celebrate the joy. It's pretty cool where we live.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Outdoors, downtown.
Yeah.
I also want to get to some of the things that you like to do around the city, but that's just incredible. I'll be at the Monday meetup tonight.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I do visual arts volunteering, so I do some of the photo video taking. So I'll be taking photos tonight at that event, actually.
Awesome.
So, and also, as part of that volunteer work, I think the first time I had actually seen you was at the ribbon cutting for the art exhibit at the Museum of Art outside.
Oh, so cool.
So stuff like that, I want to hear like what that feels like. You get elected and then you get to go and just like be in these celebratory atmospheres as well.
Yeah.
What kind of feeling does that get to just be among people celebrating?
I mean, it's really wonderful. There's some people who are opening a business for the first time or expanding their business. Being able to experience that joy is really cool because they are ready to tell you about everything they love about their business and why it goes well and why they opened it here. Um, the Sloma has put together such amazing artists that have come here. I'm really excited. I haven't actually been yet to the new Momo design on the outside of the SLO Museum of Art. The artist spoke at Good Morning of SLO right before I left for my vacation, and he just spoke about such interesting things. And he showed pictures of his art in the back on a slideshow, just absolutely awesome. I've been able to meet some of the other artists that have been part of the beautifying, but it's beyond beautifying. It's educating us as well. And I just find that really fascinating to be able to hear their process, what they're experiencing. And sometimes it's just understanding the art and the style, but sometimes it's the story behind it. So that's really fun. We're going to do a North Broad Street Park grand opening tomorrow, ribbon cutting tomorrow. And that was just this overgrown little space. And unfortunately, it turned out to be more expensive because, of course, there's a creek and riparian issues and all that good stuff. But they have cleaned it up and they've put in a playground. They've put in bike parking spaces. They've made it easier for people and safer for people to cross the street there, and people are able to enjoy a little park in their neighborhood. And I think that's really wonderful. So I just think from jobs and workers to housing ribbon cuttings and be able to open up a new multifamily housing unit or a new tract or whatever it might be is really fun. I don't get to go to as many of the swearing ins of new staff because they're usually in the middle of the day when I'm working too, because this is not the only thing I do. I actually work too. And it's been really fun to watch the new promotions and what's happening, or at least get to read about it after and be like, oh, that's Officer so-and-so, or that's the new EMT person on the mobile crisis unit, and watching us be able to grow in these different ways too. The things that we said we would actually do to either reduce homelessness or try to help people and preventing it. It's been really cool to see, wow, now we have multiple community action teams. We have multiple people as part of the mobile crisis unit. We're talking to social workers from the county and our nonprofit partners and coming together and really making change. And that's really cool.
Yeah. You work hard. It's important that you take time to celebrate.
Yes,
as well.
It is.
I know we don't have a ton of time, but this may be a broader question. But you mentioned homelessness, for example. When you do, to go back a little bit to, when it comes to enacting change in your community, what's the best way for people to bring forth a topic? Or is it really kind of just are we looking at statistics to enact change? Or how does a conversation get going? And I think this might be helpful for people to understand the process for their own city government as well.
Yeah. I mean, really, and probably in every single city government, at least in California, I think it's a combination. So most times there's an email that comes to me about an issue. And that's great. And that starts a little bit of a conversation. But when you start to see a swell of many people writing in about the same issue, you start going, something's going on that's more than the issue we're already dealing with. There might be a new branch, for lack of a better word. And so then from there, we look at statistics from what's happening throughout our city, our county, the state, sometimes the nation, and figure out what we can do or not do. I think that when people want to meet and actually say, hey, we're having this problem, can you please help us out? That's helpful. When there's emails that are being sent in, sometimes people send in best practices they see from somewhere else and say, hey, this could be done here too. So really seeing what is working or not working in other cities can help us have some ideas. The mobile crisis unit is a perfect example of that. We saw, I believe it was Boulder, Colorado, Eugene, Oregon. That's how we first started thinking about this. It was a CAHOOTS program. I forget all the CAHOOTS. I don't remember exactly what all the initials stood for, but it was very similar to our community action team. And so once we started realizing, oh, we could do that too. Oh, we could do that too. Oh, and that could reduce recidivism. That could reduce, that could help people get access to resources that could help people get back home and reunified with their families, whatever it might be. We were seeing the data from other places and how these changes were working. So really, some people just bring us ideas and say, check this out. The other thought is we're about to go into the budget. The financial plan is reviewed every 2 years. So right around Thanksgiving, we open up a giant survey and say, what are the priorities for next year? What do you want to see change? What do you see as a problem we're missing? What does that look like? People survey. They answer that survey beginning in January. The staff finds the themes and brings it all together, analyzes. And then in January, the end of January, as many people as wants to comes to Ludwig Center. Sometimes the city county library room, but one of the big rooms. And we just put everything out there. Here's the information we've been finding. Here's the themes. What do you have? What do you think? And people give in their input. Then they give it during public comments and emails and all of that from December through February. And then we start really pulling together. Here's the themes. Here's our focus for the next 2 years. Now, staff, please put together a budget that works with that and working plans that go with that. So that all goes into what we focus on for the next 2 years. So every time someone says, well, let's bring out this new idea, it is so cool. But if it doesn't fit in those 2 to 5 priorities, we typically won't pick something new in those next 2 years. But if it's so important that the data shows we need to do something about this right now, then we might say, okay, we have to put something else off and not do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. It is a lot. But again, I think it's been so cool that we get to hear how, the challenges of the job, the victories, and then a little bit of how that conversation gets going, or at least the way things work. I think that's really important. And people get to hear that. It's a very transparent process. Like you said, if it's quick, it means that not everybody's heard, but everybody ultimately has the opportunity to be heard.
That's our goal. That's our goal. And I think the hard part is there's so many things going on and we're working with so many new projects or current projects, how to hear from everybody and everything. People are like, fatigue of surveys or whatever they might be. But if this something is a issue that really matters, please let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah. You probably do hear from a lot of people because a lot of people are passionate about this place.
Absolutely.
As we've alluded to already.
Whether you've been here for generations or you're brand new, you love this place.
Yeah. I've only been here since October and I can't get enough.
You have more time ahead.
Yeah. But before we go, speaking to the things that we love about SLO, I'd be remiss to not ask you on the SLO Lounge, what makes a perfect weekend for Mayor Stewart in San Luis Obispo County as a whole?
That's a great question because it really depends on, am I being relaxed and chilling from a very intense weekend, or am I doing everything possible? Sometimes it is really just enjoying coffee or tea at one of my local coffee shops, going out to what I call hike is really just a walk for everybody else. I broke my foot recently, so I don't get to go on as many walks right now. But I really just, back to these views, there's so many walks that we can go on here just in SLO City alone. But the whole county, I mean, you can just walk in a lot of places that are really not that difficult of a walk and see just the beauty, whether it's ocean or wineries or mountains or just checking out the city on Johnson Ranch Trail. There's so much that's beautiful to see. So I love that. Wine tasting with friends is great. And also live music. I love live music. We have always great groups. I'm actually volunteering with Councilmember Shoresman this Friday at the Mission. Damon Castillo and Melody Clement are both going to be the artists on Friday at Downtown SLO, and I love both of them, so I'm really excited. I never get to get out to all of the live music I want to, but we have a lot of good opportunities here too, so it's really fun. And then I think there's, on the active side though, there are so many events happening all the time. So I guess active, not outdoor active, but like activity active is really I was just at a Rotary event on Sunday, which was really chill. Guess which Pinot Noir this one is kind of experience. Or we're going to the Symphony Pops by the Sea in Avila during Labor Day weekend. Labor Day weekend, I'm also going to be going down to Santa Maria, spending time with Central Coast Labor. I'll be coming up on Monday to the Democrat Labor picnic, barbecue. I mean, there's just so many things to be going to. And then simultaneously, we just joined in and became exchange student parent hosts again. So we have a new student from Italy that is joining our house. We're going from empty nest house to a student back in our house. Wow. And so we'll be doing some different, family events again, which might be through SLO High or through whatever he gets involved in. So really perfect is often spending time with friends and family and or just enjoying the beauty outdoors.
And staying busy. Oh my gosh.
Yes, I like that. I do.
Fun,
just,
too.
I like to sit still, but I'd prefer an audiobook while I'm checking out the beauty of South Hills versus sitting in my on my couch.
And that exchange student program will be so awesome. You'll get to see, like, I love bringing people to like this area because I get to see it through their eyes, like seeing it for the first time.
Yes, I hope he enjoys it so we can see what he sees. He came here because his sister came here and was an exchange student in SLO. So I feel like San Luis Obispo's in his family's blood a little bit.
How wonderful. I can't wait to hear about that.
Me too.
But seriously, this has been such a pleasure. I get to hear firsthand, as will the rest of the audience, about your love for this place. And we thank you for your service to this community. It's amazing. Just the level of service, the transparent nature of it, all of the things combined to be really next level. But I'd be remiss also to ask you, or really give you an opportunity. I don't know if there's something that you would say to people who you may be passing for a short amount of time, a 60-second elevator of why they should vote for you again or for the first time.
I think for me, I'm really someone who wants to hear from you, whoever I'm talking to, and really hear what's working, what's not, and how do we continue to make this community even better. And so I think for this process is knowing that what matters to me is I want to make sure everyone can have some sort of housing. I want to make sure people have access to the basics, whether it's food or transportation in some way, shape, or form. I want to make sure that everyone has more opportunities to get out of their car and find ways to get around this community easier and safer. And I really want to make sure that everyone knows they belong. I think that's where this has been I feel it's a little bit cheesy, but a melting pot of a place. People continue to come here and love it. And we want everyone to be able to enjoy that experience and know that if you love it and you've found a way to get here and work here and live here, man, you belong here. And so how do we make you know that? And how do you feel comfortable with that? So whatever that looks like, let's keep talking about it and make it a little bit better and better.
Wow, that's inspiring. With you on the case, I know those things will continue to happen.
Thank you.
And we thank you so much for taking the time again.
Thank you for having me. Really, it was a lot of fun and so fun to see, again, your whole entire environment. I love it. Slodoco, that's where our youngest lives. Yeah. It's not lives, works. And it's been just really fun to watch another, business just continue to grow in our whole entire community and county. Yeah. And so just continuing to see what that looks like as we go on.
Absolutely. Nominate anybody you'd like to come on and share their passion for SLO as well as you have done. And we look forward to, come on anytime. Awesome. Thanks again.
And I'll see you at the Duval Park.
See you tonight.
All right. See you tonight.
Bye.
Thanks, Nick.